My name is Brian Cook. I'm the founder and president of StretchMed, and you're listening to S.M.E Stories.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks down on the show. We got a great episode today with Brian Cook. Now, Brian Cook is the founder and CEO of StretchMed. So a little bit about Brian. Brian's been an entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience, opening about 200 locations across 4 different boutique fitness brands. He has a Bachelor of Science or a BS degree in exercise physiology from Northeastern University and an MBA from Babson College. His most recent company, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is StretchMed, which is headquartered in Puerto Rico. Now, StretchMed is a one-on-one stretching studio franchise model. Its purpose is to eliminate chronic pain, increase mobility, rejuvenate, and help you move well. Now, StretchMed was founded back in 2019, has currently over 30 locations open in 15 states, with 30 more to be opened in the next 12 months. So a little bit also about Brian is that he's from Boston, but he, like I mentioned before, he resides in Puerto Rico. He's a former hockey player and loves boating. So it's going to be a very interesting little discussion today we have with Brian, because we're now talking about the health and wellness space. So sit back and absorb. All right, let's touch on the tips from the pro segment now. So these are questions from listeners that want to know about the franchising space and, what should I do and what should I not do and all that sort of stuff. So
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
question number 1, what criteria should I use if I want to franchise my own business?
Yeah, so if you want to franchise your own business, what I do initially, so we have an 11 module framework that we put everything through. So if you think about it this way, your business is the widget. You first have to, highly systematize that business. And just like me, most of the things I did were in my head. So it wasn't really franchisable until I built the system. So the first thing would be you take your business through this process of systematization, developing operations manual. And in particular, so I'll share with you what our module 1 is, and it's called Vision. And at some point, we're going to create a free course, and it's going to be like Vision, a Vision framework course. So it begins with what's the purpose of your company, and what's the purpose of your existing company or company you want to start, right? And I shared StretchMed already, right? So it's to eliminate chronic pain, increase mobility, rejuvenate, help you move well. So what problem are you going to solve? Then the next part is you want to develop what your core values are. What are the things that are important to you personally? What makes you tick? What annoys you? And you want to kind of make that visible, because it's either going to attract or repel people. And as you're building a team, you don't want to find out that the right hand person next to you, you guys are like completely not aligned with thinking and core values and things like that. So purpose, core values, and the third one is mission. What's the goal? And for StretchMed, it's 1,000 locations. Not 900, not 950. It's no less than 1,000 locations. So we get clear on purpose, core values, mission. And then and this is just you, the founder. You haven't even told anyone about this yet. Purpose, core values, mission. Then you're gonna get clear on the brand, right? And for StretchMed, there was 90 names in the beginning. I started with 90 different names, and then it just whittled down to StretchMed. And then there was 90 iterations of the logo. I joked that we spend more time on the logo than on the entire business model. Then the brand, it's a premium brand. That's what StretchMed is. And then you build the financial model. And now we know what it costs to open a StretchMed and what it's going to cost to operate a StretchMed. And this is just the unit, not the franchisor yet. We're still talking about the unit. And then the pricing strategy is the next thing you build. And that's going to influence the financial model. So now at this point, we've completed module 1. And what happens is we either are excited or it dies right here. And when you make assumptions in the financial model, you got to be real with those assumptions. Like for example, $80 an hour was what all the competitors charge for stretching. I didn't say we're going to charge $200 an hour. I didn't just come up with wild, ridiculous assumptions. So you get clear on vision. Then the next module, I'll kind of rip through the high level. Then it goes to people, right? Now we're going to work on people. And we hire, train, and fire to our purpose, core values, and mission. Then we set priorities. We talk about what data we're going to measure, and then the meeting rhythms. And then it's the startup, marketing, sales, new client experience, client transformation, client fulfillment, referrals, testimonials, and lastly, innovation. And because that's really the last thing you want to focus on. And the interesting thing is when you look at the client transformation, that's module 7. So the client transformation is whatever problem you're solving, and it's the 7th most important thing. It's not the first thing. And that doesn't matter if you're selling fitness or stretching or podcasting or pizza or a restaurant experience. You've got to do this in chronological order. And so what the framework does allows us to be really clear. Now, where franchisors, I think, struggle is they then kind of systematize their widget. But then now when you've got to franchise that, you have to do the whole 11 modules again. But you've got to do it as the franchisor. And that's where it gets tricky. You actually got to do it twice.
Interesting. So, well, you can see that. I think the listeners can probably hear that, if they're thinking about really considering, starting their own franchise, that probably reaching out to Brian's probably one of the better options for that. Just because, I mean, you're a professional who's been doing this a while, that, having someone who's thinking the concept of it to the maybe from the A to Z of it, you have something there that it really kind of makes them have that come to Jesus moment to find out, is this really something that I really want to do? Or it could just confirm that, okay, you know what? There's still a lot of holes I still have to plug up that I can't figure out, which leads me into my second question, actually, for Tips from the Pro that we got here from listeners is, what is the most common process that gets overlooked when starting a franchise?
I would say the financial model. I would say module 1, because to me the entire so for me personally, I only really want to be involved in module 1 at this point, because I feel like that's the most creative state where you've got to build the financial model. It's got to be strong, because without unit economics, without franchisees being successful, you're done. Doesn't matter what the contract says, doesn't matter what they sign. If they don't make money, and I think the other probably biggest thing that's overlooked is holding franchise owners accountable to following the system. And unfortunately, franchising is like teaching a language, right? So when you start to teach this language, it's really hard. And then if someone's like, wow, that didn't sound good, I'm going to try this pronunciation. Then they just take a hard right, they start running it their own way. And the franchisor, it's such a delicate balance, because it's a word of mouth business. So on one hand, I need you to like me and us. On the other hand, we need to hold you accountable to a recipe that's proven to work. So what we're starting to do is very early on in the process, secret shopping, the studios really getting into their process just to make sure that they're following the business, and they don't start to adopt or develop some bad habits that are going to lead them down the wrong road.
Yeah, so basically it's like buying a Burger King franchise and trying to create your own burger.
Exactly.
Right? Which you're not supposed to do. Although I don't mind if, I do enjoy my Burger King once in a while. I wouldn't mind if they had the McDonald's French fries, but that's just me altogether. And aside from that, but no, that's actually really important, because I was going to ask you then, that auditing process of do you audit your franchisees to make sure? Right. So you said you use secret shoppers and stuff like that. And is that applicable for every franchise that you have right now? So they are getting audited, maybe obviously secret audits that are going on every year with these guys?
Yeah, we're definitely doing it more and more. And as you grow, you'll just start doing it more. And then there's another technology that we've got an SOP technology that we're implementing, where it's going to allow us, really granular, really a granular view into all the locations, and just making sure everything from that free intro stretch, where all the steps followed in this free intro stretch and did it convert to a customer. So that way, when you buy a StretchMed, it's like, all right, we have a third-party consultant that's going to help you hire your manager. So now you plug your manager in. So your only job is to develop the manager, who then develops the assistant manager, and the assistant manager develops the part-timer. So it's a nice flow. There's no reverse delegation happening. And you as the owner, we really want you to be an analyst. You're going to study data, and that data is going to tell you where you and your manager need to focus and improve on the business.
So this next question from a listener was saying, well, what are the red flags? Let's say I want to actually buy a franchise. Obviously, there's a bunch of different things there, but are there any red flags that I should know about when trying to buy a franchise?
Yeah, definitely. I think the things we measure are return on time, return on cash. So how much cash are you going to have to pull out of your bank account to buy this franchise? And in our case, most of the owners would pull $40,000 out of savings, and they would get an SBA loan for, let's say, another 160. So $200,000 loan, they put 20% down, which is 40,000, and then they spent 40,000 in cash. Now is how many hours? Well, what did you make year one? What was your profit year one, and how many hours a week did you spend? To me, those are the three numbers you care about. If you go to a franchise and they're like, oh, I paid $100,000 and I made $100,000, but I worked 80 hours a week, right? Then you have to assess, like, all right, that's interesting. If you find another one that was $40,000 out of pocket, I made $50,000 and I worked 10 hours a week. Which would you want? Would you want to make $40,000 on 10 hours or $100,000 on 80 hours? So to me, if it's not scalable and you can't pass it on to someone, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole if you're buying a job. But many of the good franchises out there, they're just highly systematized. You want a franchisor that's like really going to police the brand and not allow these mom and pop versions of the franchise to happen, which will erode the success of the system.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point too. I mean, you have to understand. That was going to be my next question. Actually, was related to, how do you deal with a difficult franchisee, right? So, you talked about what flags to look into, because sometimes it is hard when you think about franchises, and especially if someone wants to get involved. Let's say they don't want to spend the time to create their own thing. So they look, I'm sure there's like franchise magazines, websites where you can see, oh, you can start your own franchise for only $5,000, so that really low price point makes it interesting. Is like, okay, I have $5,000. I don't have, let's say 40, 50 grand or 100 grand. Like Brian was suggesting for some of these other franchises, but I got 5, so I can do this thing here, and it could just be totally crap, and then you're stuck working, right? So my question to you is then, do you have a screening system for franchisees? Like, do you want your franchisees to be like I wouldn't say passive owner, but do you want them to be like in the front lines, or you just want them to make sure that they, is that even one of the criteria that you have to be involved? I think for some, like restaurant franchises, you actually have to be there. You can't just put up the money and then hire a management team and give them the manual and then just leave, right? I think some franchisees think that'd be the ideal thing, but how do you figure that part out?
Yeah, we prefer really owners to be more data driven, analytical, than wanting to like run the business day to day. Like, it's fine that they kind of can really be hands-on, but we would always recommend still hire a manager, because now you and the manager are running the business, and then the owner can particularly focus on the data, because no matter what, if you're in the weeds running a business, you're going to miss all kinds of things. But if you're actually not a manager, you can actually study these 10, 12 data points and immediately, like even we're opening a new location in Glendale, California in like a week or two, and looking at the success of the digital ad strategy, and it's only been launched for 3-4 days. We just increased the spend. We went from $50 a day to $100 a day like yesterday, because we're already calculating what the return on. We already know by number of intros booked how many customers we're going to get based on our conversions. So we just doubled the marketing budget, and already this morning, more leads are coming in. So be data driven. Don't get hung up on, running the business like a manager, and then it sets you up to scale. And then you can open up another one, even a different business potentially. But, for me, doing this for a long time, no matter what you do, you get bored. And you want to set the business up where you can it makes money whether you're running it or not. You could be at home or on vacation, but the more you run the business, the less value it has, because you are the business.
Right. That's a really good point, because I think what a lot of owners think about, like, when they get started, they just want to, like you said, they're kind of like buying a job pretty much, right? Like they're creating their own job, and they don't think of that exit strategy, or that strategy that, okay, if I call myself, Ken Consulting or something like that, then basically I'm Ken, and that means the business lives and dies by me, right? And if what you just scenario you put out there is that you don't want that to be you, really. You want to call it something other than Ken Consulting. My first business, or one of my first ones I did when I was a trainer, was I actually had my full name, fitness and performance training. That was really long. Couldn't fit that in a business card because it was too long. So I learned the hard way about why you shouldn't put your name in as part of the business, unless that's what you really want to do, right? But it's good to mention that. So last question before we hit from the rapid fire round here is, so yeah, back to my original question: how do you deal with like problem franchisees?
Yeah, so what we do is we just get on a Zoom call, because we have a motto, and this was developed way back in fitness coaching, and it's care first, crush second. So if you were coming into me and I'm your personal trainer, I'm going to care about you so much first, so that when I crush you later, you know where it's coming from. So we let the owners know, like, look, we really care about your investment, maybe more than you do. And because we care so much about your investment, we can't negotiate how to run a business, how to run this particular business. Because I personally have only done this one thing for 30 years. I haven't run real estate development companies and IT. I haven't done what you've done in other areas, but I've done this one thing. And what the data tells us is this is exactly where this business is falling up short. So we can argue about it, but if we can agree to disagree, then I think we can make progress. And typically most owners, they're cool with that. They just kind of want to be heard. And we always look at it as like they're scared, they're frustrated, they put their life savings in harm's way. So we just kind of treat it very delicately, and just, it's all about the relationship. You really got to work on it. And if it's still not a good thing, we help them sell. And we've had some owners that come in, maybe they just didn't like people. We've had some owners that have turned over like 3 managers in a short amount of time, and that's really a bad sign. Then we just help them sell, because obviously many owners would love a complete turnkey location ready to go. They don't have to go through the build out.
Really? So you actually have helped. So even the ones that they've given you problems, and they give you an extra gray hair or two, right? Because they're always, like you said, because I think what people have to understand too, when I mean problem franchisees, it doesn't mean that they're bad people, right? Maybe some of them are, but a lot of them, like you said, they might have put their entire life savings into this. And let's say it's not making any money. They're always stressed out, and, they go to the support protocols and it's still not helping. So now they go into Brian. So the fact that you actually try to help them, even when it's not working well, to say, here, we'll work with you. Let's sell this so you can get some of your money back, so you're set, as opposed to just saying, yeah, you're kind of on your own, which I thought most places would do. So the fact that you run a company that will help you, because I guess it's your name, right? Because that's your thing. So if you have a bad franchisee, you want to make sure that they're not around.
Yeah, it's never good for any franchisor. I think we, most of us share the same sentiment. It's like, let's just help this person, not take it personal. It's business. We get it. Every business is a risk, and in a franchise, and we're trying to minimize the risk by just doing a lot of due diligence. And we're locating the territory, find a location, we negotiate the leases, we're helping you hire managers. So we're trying to take all of the big ones kind of off the table. And then again, we're lighting up the marketing, we're controlling the marketing, we're controlling the spend. So we're kind of making it where really hard to fail, because if you fail, we fail. And what people don't really talk about, if the franchisor has a failure, we have to disclose it in the franchise document. So it's a big problem. So and having a failure under 100 units is just catastrophic. So we really work hard to make sure we don't have failures. And of course, someday they're going to happen, but we're gonna hopefully push that off, and maybe never. If we put a team on the boots on the ground that all they do is work on, struggling units, create a system that has no failures.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you then, before we get to the rapid fire right here, have you ever had to deal with that problem franchisee ever where you had to like say, okay, we got to sell it?
Yes. Well, StretchMed, we don't have any, we've closed none of our retail locations. We've got some pop-ups that we've opened up that have, closed, but they weren't open. They weren't our retail locations. They're more of like a pop-up temporary location. But on the fitness side, we've had a couple of nightmares. We had, a couple, like one guy he had three fitness locations, and one was great, one was a middle roader, one was not performing well. We met with them, and then we just said, look, just get rid of the bottom store, sell for $1, and if you sell for $1, you cut your losses and you'll be fine. My wife won't let me. Like, what do you like? Makes no sense. And then what he started to do is he started to get the customers to start to pay 2 years in advance. So
Oh,
he essentially started to defraud the customers. So we sent him a notice, can't do that. He got a
no.
lawyer, we're like, all right, here we go. And then it resulted in him being terminated. So it was kind of like a situation that didn't have to happen. But every now and then, again, someone will hook wings with one of these franchise attorneys that just looking to line their pockets. And this guy was walked down the wrong path. He ended up losing all three of his locations, and it's just awful. And it's simply just like if you own three stocks and one is a dog and one's middle and one is a booming, wouldn't you just sell the bad stock? Why would you just
Yeah.
say no?
I mean,
It's more logic.
I heard of some people, and this is I'm just going to generalize here, but I've heard it's called the Chinese restaurant syndrome, where you'll have an owner that will have a really popular Chinese restaurant or a really successful one, but they also open a really bad one that operates poorly, just from the tax perspective of being able to write off the old one. Right now, I don't know if that's what this person was trying to do. I mean,
Really, no bandit to that whatsoever because
you know what? Sorry to
yeah,
cut you off, Brian. I'm wondering if maybe that franchisee's wife really liked that one that was struggling because maybe that was her own personal gym. I don't know.
no, it wasn't the case. It's just frankly people thinking that they're just gonna somehow magically get more money for it. They just gonna if they hope and pray enough that it's gonna turn around. They're just not looking at reality.
Yeah.
So anyway, luckily, very infrequent episodes of people just completely going off the rails. So
Well,
not a problem.
knock on wood that you never have to go through that with StretchMed, which is really cool. So, all right, let's get to the fun stuff here. We're just wrapping up. Can't believe it's been already over an hour already. So here's the rapid fire round. We're going to ask some more relaxed questions instead of all this serious business talk that we've been talking about.
Now it's time for the rapid fire round.
All right. So question number one, Brian, what would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing right now?
50-year-old self, I would be a professional hockey player.
On which team?
Boston Bruins.
Boston. I was thinking Boston. I don't know why for some reason I thought you would have said Toronto, but yes, you're not, Boston. Excellent. All right. What is your guilty pleasure?
Geez, that's a good one. I don't know, like maybe love Mexican food. I mean,
Ooh.
I probably like, like in a margarita. Obviously, very infrequent these last bunch of years, but that'd be something maybe a couple times a year. That's probably my go-to.
Well, I'll make this story really quick too. So here in Canada, in Canada, there weren't very a lot of Mexican food places. I love Mexican food. And we had Taco Bell, which is, you can call it Mexican food if you want, but it's because like the McDonald's of the Mexican food era. So some people don't really like it. But this is back in like the mid to late 90s. So if I wanted Mexican food, I would have to go to downtown Toronto. And at that time, I was still pretty young. I didn't really want to go downtown. I didn't know where to go. I didn't navigate. So you're kind of stuck with Taco Bell. We had to take a trip to Los Angeles, California. And we were just, me and my family were just walking around the beach. And then I see an actual Mexican food place. And I was like, oh my God, there's Mexican food, like real Mexican food. I would tell my parents and my sister and my grandfather, let's all go get Mexican food. They're like, no. You know what, Ken, we're just going to continue walking the beach. I said, what are you going to do? I'm going to go eat in that restaurant by myself. I literally walk up, Brian, to the thing. And they're like, table for how many? I said, one. I said, you sure? I said, yeah. Do you need anything? Just give me a newspaper. And then I would sit down, and I sat down for the entire hour eating almost everything on that menu. Maybe not everything, but tacos, enchiladas, burrito, because I never got to that actual Mexican experience before. So that was my little thing when it comes to Mexican food. So yeah, I can totally relate to you on that. All right, describe your sense of humor in one word?
I think dry, definitely dry.
He's a comedian, folks. Brian's a comedian, which is great. But no, that's great. So I always ask this to all the things. It's always back to food for some reason. If you can make a sandwich, what would be in it, and what would you call it?
Oh, that's interesting. So I'm the last 2 years I've only had meat maybe 5 times. So I've been on this plant-based kind of kick for a bit. But I guess my favorite sandwich of all time would be an Italian sub, fully loaded, like hands down, and like out on my boat in the summertime with a Corona and a lime. That's probably the ultimate. That's the ultimate combination in the world.
So if you could sell it, what would you call it? So you got your Italian sub with your Corona. What are you calling it, Brian?
Life is good.
Life is good. Put it on a shirt. All right, last song here. So last song. Last question here. I always ask all my guests, what is your theme song and why? So you're walking down, in your case, a beach. That song hits. People know that Brian is coming.
That's a tough one. Personally, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's pretty much been my life for the most part. Have had a lot of ups and downs, and you keep pushing, and you stay optimistic. You'll get there. And it's kind of something where you look at passion plus failure equals success. That's kind of like a little formula that I like. Passion plus failure equals success. If you don't fail, you're just not trying hard enough, because in failure is really just education. You're just learning. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be tough. I don't know what song would fit into that.
Well, Kelly Clarkson does have some song where it says, "What doesn't kill you make you strong." I forgot the name of the song. So we'll just say whatever that song is by Kelly Clarkson, that'll be your theme song. So that's great. So anyways, final question here. Is there any advice you want to give for anyone, whether they want to start a franchise, own a franchise, or just start a business in general?
Yeah, definitely. I would say take your 9 to 5 job. And if you don't love it, just keep it, tighten the hours up. Don't do more than 4 hours a week. Begin your side hustle. Do not give up on the side hustle. And then once you've got a side hustle where you're spending 20 hours a week, you've monetized it, you love it, you can't wait for your workday to end to do that, raise some capital potentially, and then exit the 9 to 5 and just take a leap of faith and just get ready to love what you do every single day. And you'll work hard, you'll have some failures, listen to a ton of podcasts, and just build a strong
S.M.E Stories podcast. Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Stuff like that. No, finish with that, Brian.
Yeah, definitely. And then just, peer group. I like the expression power of association is 9/10 the rule. So just get with other successful people. It'll rub off. And then just look at everything through that investor mindset. And you'll be great. Read a bunch of books. Like Robert Kiyosaki's got his stuff's awesome. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Cash Flow Quadrant is
two favorites.
Yeah, real good.
Nice. So last question for me on this. I already said this last one, but so you said you might have some Canadian ones. Are you actually going to go to any of the Canadian franchisees that you open?
Yeah, definitely. I've been to Toronto a bunch of times. Just going to different workshops and awesome city. So yeah, I'll definitely. And then Vancouver. I don't know if I should mention this, but I was there with my son for Game 7 when the Bruins won. So that was pretty.
Well, you know what? I still haven't forgiven Wayne Gretzky back in '93. I don't know if you remember that time when the Leafs were almost going to make the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time ever, and I think it was some type of penalty that should have been called, and I haven't forgiven Wayne Gretzky at that point, but he's one of the greatest of all time. But I'm trying not to remember when Boston eliminated the Leafs, oh my God, a few years ago, where the Leafs were up by, was it 4-1? and for 4-1, and then we ended up losing 5-4, and we were eliminated. So I could not believe that happened. So that's why I try not to watch playoff games, Brian, because I feel like if I watch it, I give the Leafs the bad luck. But you never know. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so the website is stretchmedstudios.com. That's just the main thing that we're doing right now. But then probably LinkedIn, Brian R. Cook on LinkedIn. You'll find me, and we're going to start dabbling with the, having an initial 8-person group come to Puerto Rico for a couple of days and kind of start to build out a case study on franchising their concepts. It'll be pretty fun.
Anyways, my friend, thank you for being on the show. It was awesome.
Great to be here. Talk soon. Have a good one.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.